Joining me is a man who lives and breathes music. Twina Herbert is with us today to share the message behind his song and what sparked his passion for gospel music. Twina, welcome to Turning Point.
Thank you.
Now, people generally call you Twina.
Yes.
Is there a story behind that, why they call you just that?
My real name is Twina Masco, but it is a long one, so they cut it short and call me Twina.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, your music here in Uganda is quite unique.
Yes.
Because there's a certain sound everybody expects of gospel artists, but
Yes.
yours is a bit more contemporary worship mixed with a bit of urban. What influences did you have to get you to that style of music?
My story of beginning music, there is a song that inspired me. I had a story. I had been chased out of a home, and when I was chased out of a home by a friend I lived with, I sat in this taxi, didn't know where I was going, and a song played in the background of the taxi that said, "To the river I am going with this load of care, and I pray that I surrender it to the Lord." So I listened to this style of music. It was ministering to me in that time of stress, in that time of despair, in that time of sorrow, and it blessed my life. When I went back home, actually I slept at church that night, and then I started listening to that style of music.
Right.
It blessed my life. Worship became the bread to my life. I lived, I ate, I listened to worship every morning, and it was blessing my life. And through that music, I began composing my story in that style of
And
music.
how old were you at that point?
At that point, I was in my vacation of senior 6. I was about 19.
19. But going back before that, the early years were rough, because I know you ended up living by yourself at a very young age.
Yes.
and having to fend for yourself and
Yes.
hawking on the street. What happened there? Where were your parents?
My parents, until now, they still both live, but they were very poor, very, very poor. We lived many miles away from Kampala, which is a city of Uganda. I grew up as a farming child. We used to go to the garden, dig. We used to do the village thing, digging, rearing cattle. We would take the cows for feeding. And my dad stayed in Kampala, and Kampala is the capital, and then my mom stayed in the village with us. But everyone who came to primary 7, after finishing primary 7 and graduating to secondary is high school, then you'd come and join your father.
So primary 7 is what age?
Is 12.
About 12.
About
So, okay.
12.
12
So,
going on 13.
Going on 13.
You'll
So
go to the city.
I came to the city when I made 13, joining high school, is it high school? Senior 1. And then when I came to my father, we didn't know he was gambling life in Kampala. So when we came to Kampala, we found even feeding was not easy.
Wow.
He couldn't afford my school fees at school. So it is through that stress in Kampala, I would go. He lived near a university called Makerere University, and then I would go knocking the hostels of students, asking them for clothes to wash and earn 1,000 shillings, which was less than $1.
Wow.
Less than $1 for a living. And through that little money, I would buy Porsche, which would feed me and my father. We stayed 2 in the room that he rented. So it is that through that moment, when now I'm in Kampala, we are in the cheapest schools, and even the cheapest schools, he can't afford paying school fees. You're running here and there. They're chasing you every day. It's that life that brought me into hawking, and
Right.
Into hawking on the streets and washing clothes of university students.
But let me ask you though, because all this for a young man, I mean, I'm sure at that point you didn't have time to think about it and say, oh, my life is so bad. But where did the Jesus thing happen for you? Where did the hope come from?
Where the hope came from, my consistent going to church. There was a specific church in Kampala City called KPC. Today it's called Watoto Church. Now they used to prepare a meal. They had overnights every Friday, but they would prepare a cup of tea and a piece of bread, and they would serve it later in the night during the morning hours. And so I would go there to change on my diet, because we would eat posho and peanuts, which is not a good diet for us in Kampala here. Now to change on our poor diet, I would go to church, targeting that cup of tea and a piece of bread later in the hour. So when I did it consecutively, The message, of course, touched me, and one night I gave my life to Christ.
Wow.
Yes.
So going to church looking for tea and then finding Jesus.
Yes,
So
yes.
now let's skip forward to the now for you, which for you, it's a good time. And there'll be others who look at you and think, oh, I wish I was Twina.
Yes.
I wish I wasn't where he is. What's it been like, the journey of sharing your story and your music with people around Uganda and beyond? What are some of the things that you've seen God do with you and your music?
One moment, I received a call. Someone was going to the shrine. I don't know whether and a shrine is the places they go for divine consultation. Someone was going to a shrine, and they listened to my music, and they called me, told me I was going to the shrine, but when I listened to your music, I am going no more.
Wow.
And I've had several testimonies. And today I pastor a church. I lead a church called Family Life Church. It is a young church, but one of the things that made me there is I saw my life being a blessing. Big and small, educated and uneducated, honorable people have been blessed by my music, and I think I'm proud of that when I hear my life, my story touch and change lives. I've seen it in Kampala. I've seen people call me all over the world saying they watch my music on YouTube and they are blessed.
So the next phase of Twina's life, is it just music or pastoring?
I am grateful to the Lord that my life is just music. I don't know a life without music. When I began worship, I didn't come up with a vision and say one day I'll become a worshiper or one day I'll become an artist. When I got that guitar and started pouring out my heart, I realized this is who I am. Okay. I think my life is worship, my life is music. And every time I am sorrowful, every time I am happy, it all comes out in music. So right. I think my entire life is worship. And pastoring, I don't know how we are doing. I don't know what God has for me in that area. But as long as He still calls me to do that, I will.